Connie, welcome to JinJapan Podcast, a podcast every 2 days of my travels, adventures, and learnings of Japan. And today's episode is going to be an interesting one, because it's about the Japanese traditional tea stirrer called the Cyasen. As over the weekend, I took part in a Cyasen making experience in Nara prefecture. And I was taught about the Cyasen, how it's made, and some little interesting facts about it from, well, one of the top craftsmen in Japan, probably, for Cyasen. The 25th generation of the Tanimura family. 25th generation. Yes. Tadamono de wa nai desu ne. Today we're going to talk about that, and quite a bit about Japanese history in today's episode. And at the end we'll talk a little bit about the Sakura season. So stick around for that. It'll be a good one. So grab some tea, sit back, relax, and we'll enjoy today's episode. Otanoshimi. So first up, if you don't know what a Cyasen is, it's a tea stirrer. You've probably seen one of these. If you've seen Japanese tea ceremony, it's the wooden stirrer made from bamboo with lots of whisk, lots of sort of ends. And there's between like 80 to 100, and even sometimes over 100 little whiskers on the stirrer. And it looks very fine and very delicate. And the thing is, they're all handmade. Every single one of these is carved by hand. What's quite impressive. Japan, there's one place what makes them. Yeah, only one place in Japan. And that is in Nara prefecture. Ikoma City, Takayama. And this is the home to Cyasen. Like, no, really, this is the only place in Japan what makes them. What's a bit crazy when you think about it. And one thing interesting about this area is all the people who make Cyasen. They all have a long lineage. And this is like over 500 years history of, well, the creation and the techniques to make the Cyasen have been passed down. But it's interesting, it's not like normal family inheritance. A concept in Japanese called ishi-sode. That's only one kid, one child in the family will get taught techniques and methods to make the Cyasen. What means it doesn't really grow too much, but that also does mean the secrets don't really get out. And throughout the experience of making the Cyasen, I learned a lot about Japanese history, and I did find out the first sort of time Japan was really open about these methods of creating Cyasen and other things about tea ceremony, more traditional Japanese making styles, especially in wooden structures, only in the 60s at the Osaka World Fair. Before that, it was extremely secretive, even in Japan. Because as you said, it's only one person in the family who would get taught this, right? And they need to keep the family going, keep up business, to keep everyone fed, right? You can't leak out all your secrets, and other people will start making it. And this actually led to a little bit of a problem right now in Japan. Because only 30% of the market for Cyasen, and even any other sort of Japanese traditional crafts, is made in Japan. The 70%, that's from China. So pretty much all of the Japanese traditional styles, crafts, are made in China now. Same with matcha as well, and China is dominating the market, especially in Europe, and the people who want it in China, because people like, ocha, tea ceremony in China too. But it's still sticking around, especially in the Japanese made goods. They're still extremely popular. As well, it's a brand, right? It's the high-end class goods, and people want those. Like even the people who do it in China, they want the stuff from Japan. Well, it's the best. One interesting thing I really was interested in when I learned this is actually it tastes different. Tea made from a Cyasen in Takayama will be different from the Cyasen you buy in China. Well, mostly because, the bamboo's different. So they're made from bamboo. And in Japan, when the bamboo's cut, it's left between 2 and 3 years. And then the Cyasen is made. And the different styles of quality of Japanese bamboo to Chinese bamboo plants give the sort of a different taste. What I found is really interesting, especially now, plastic Cyasens are actually becoming a little bit popular. It's a bit easier to clean and easier to travel with. But it's interesting enough, this also leads to a very different taste. Mostly because the way the bubbles are made. So if you do matcha tea, very important is the bubbles. When you whisk it, how many bubbles come up, are the bubbles big, are the bubbles small, that is a very important part, and that's the quality of the Cyasen. It's really, really hard to do it. It means the Cyasen may be a bit old, but the size of the taste all depends on, well, the quality of your instrument. So if you want to give the best tea to your customers, well, you have to have a high-class Cyasen. But it gets a bit more interesting than that, because when you look at the Cyasen, it's very, very fine. It's very delicate, and actually, it's only really supposed to be used once. Yes, one time only. Its sell-by date is one use. What's a bit like, that's not really sustainable, right? And this when you get the more upper-end tea ceremony. High-class, like professional tea ceremony. This is when you get a new Cyasen every time you serve tea. But for the normal people want to learn, do it to a customer at a shop, and the same Cyasen over and over again, it's fine. It still makes good tea, but if you want that really high class, you want to give someone, well, that ichigo ichie. What's a big concept in Japanese tea ceremony? Buying a new Cyasen for that customer, well, it makes it a little bit more special, right? And throughout this experience of making a Cyasen, I now have my own Cyasen. I could, well, do that to someone. I haven't used it yet, so I'm giving it for a special occasion. That special someone you meet, and well, you want to give them good tea, so you whip out your Cyasen you made yourself, and they're like, ooh, because that is the power of Japanese tea ceremony. And if you want a little bit more about this and the Japanese history of Japanese tea ceremony, check out some of my previous episodes on the history of Japanese tea, and as well as Sennorikyu. That's more about the philosophy, the ways of thinking of Japanese tea, and what it was really used for. And now, before we get to the next part, talking a bit about Sakura, we'll look at where was this experience, and what did I do there? So the experience in Nara prefecture, Imakoshi City. And Imakoshi City, there's a place called Suka Koen, Suka Park. And there is the house of the Tanimura family. Tanimura Yasaburou. Yeah, I got that wrong. Yasaburou. Yes, that's right. Tanimura Yasaburou. And he's the 25th generation of the family's, well, Cyasen inheritance. That one child in the family inheritance going down the family for, well, over 500 years. He offers an experience to make the Cyasen. What to see how it's made, to learn about it. You can use the Cyasen as well. You can use the other instruments used in Japanese tea ceremony as well. You get to experience Japanese tea as well. Do match yourself and experience, well, it's very, 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 very nice. A Japanese villa. It's, well, a top-class chasetsu. Like, I'm there right now, and it was Sakura season. There was Sakura flowers that were falling off, and it was like, doing tea around that. It was just really good. Nice to sit there and be like, yes, tea is good. Yeah. And as well, the experience is actually quite cheap, only costing me 4,500 yen. When you think about the cost of a decent Cyasen, is just about 3,000 to about 5,000 yen. Having an experience to make your own for the same sort of price, I think is really worthwhile, because you get to learn a lot. As well as that, he also offers experience from not just tea ceremony, shaji, what's more sort of the way of, well, sado, but beyond tea. Because the sort of tea ceremony side of it is only one aspect of the whole tea ceremony. Like wabi-cha, there's also food and ways to prepare that, like seasonal food to prepare. Much more levels to that, and they also offer classes for that as well, what I might look into joining in the coming months. If you want some high-end, traditional Japanese cuisine, well, it seems a good experience to do that. So that's going to end today's part on Cyasen. Ooh. And next, we're going to talk a little bit about the Sakura season before we end, because, well, it's soon going to be over. Sabushi! So the last 3 weeks in Japan have been, well, lovely weather. Really nice weather and perfect for the Sakura season. I started my Sakura season in Matsuyama, in Ehime prefecture, on top of Matsuyama Castle. What gave for amazing views over the local surroundings of Matsuyama and, well, the castle, covered in pink flowers, which is like, amazing. And then, well, I moved to Shodo Island. What's famous for olives? There wasn't too many sakura trees, as you say in like Honshu, as in Matsuyama, or as in Shikoku, but there was still a good opportunity to see lots of the sakura flowers, especially at the very famous Olive Park in Shoroshima. And there's an interesting thing I did in Shoroshima, not many people normally do. So in the Olive Park, you can get like olive mori, where you go around the olive trees, you take an olive leaf you like, and then you sort of laminate it. And that is just sort of good, like a gift. But as I thought, well, it's a sakura season, let's take a sakura flower. And it's actually worked quite interesting. As the sakura flower, well, when it's heated and laminated, it kind of goes a bit transparent. You can still see it's like pinkish white, but you kind of see the veins inside, so it became kind of cool. So now I have my very own Sakura Omamori. Ooh. Well, it's got me ideas to maybe buy a laminator myself and save more each year. And maybe do some little research into that. It'd be good fun. So after Shoroshima, I headed to Kobe. Only for a day. But in Kobe, it's like any city in Japan. There's lots of parks and there's lots of trees. And I did have a nice little walk through Kobe before taking the train. I was to see lots of these sakura flowers. And this is just after full bloom. So they're slowly dying. But this is a nice time I like. This is when the sakura flowers, they're falling off the trees. So you get those nice views of the sakura falling off the trees. And you're like, the wind blowing it around. And then next off, where I was going from Kobe was Nara prefecture. And well, Nara is, famous for parks. And I stayed near a very, very famous temple, Saikoji. And when I went to this experience I talked about in the first part, in Takayama, I took a bike. Because, it's a perfect sunny day. I found a very, very, very special shrine. When I say special, perfect for the sakura season. And that is Ayame Ika Jinja. Swamp Shrine. It's around the lake. And if you've seen my Instagram right now, I've got a really popular reel just hit up. It's gone over how many likes now? Over 70 likes. My god, that is just gone buzz. And what's amazing about this shrine for the sakura season is there's a path across the swamp, but it's basically a lake. And at the end of it, there are the sakura trees. So you cycle along, and the sakura, it's good, it's good. It's pink. So yeah, that was a really big experience. And it's always good to cycle around. And now I'm in Kyoto, and it comes, the end of the sakura season now. Most of the sakura trees have lost their sakura leaves. But quite a lot of them, there's a little bit remaining, and they've got the green leaves popping out. So it's also a very, very beautiful time for this sort of time as well. It's the end of that season, but it's lingering on, and that the new hope is there for the new leaves starting to coming through. What also makes it a little bit beautiful. And in Kyoto, the Takase River, is perfect for this. If you don't know what the Takase River is, it's a nice little river with some of the olden shops in Japan. In Kyoto, they're very old style sort of restaurants. And along this small little river, there's lots of trees and there's lanterns. And having the trees and lanterns and sakura, it makes it a beautiful sight. So that is probably ended my sakura season for now. I want a perfect end to end today's episode. So if you like today's content about the Cyasen and want to make it yourself, the link to the experience is down below. I think it's definitely one, if you learn Japanese and you want to get to the next level and learn a bit more about cultural side, it's definitely a good one to attend to. Or any Japanese people want to learn more about Cyasen and Ocha. And in Nara, it's something you cannot miss, I think. It's a great experience. And I want to do more things like that. So if you like today's episode and have any comments about things you want to see about today's episode, please leave the comments down below on Instagram or on the Facebook page. That'd be much appreciated, especially iTunes. Because if you leave a comment on iTunes and show me that comment, if you have the right chance, I will make you match a tea right there and then. That is a promise. そう、皆さん最後まで聞いてくれて本当にありがとうございました。じゃあね。